course, really coming on strong in that second quarter. Total yardage in their favor.
Time of possession was a big key you saw in favor of Denver. This kickoff is sponsored by Budweiser, the king of beers. As we open the second half, Rich Carlos kicking to the Seahawks. Morris on the near side, Bobby Joe Edmonds on the far side. The Seahawks moved the ball very effectively in the first half. They just didn't have it in their possession as much. Edmonds won't return this one. In the second period, Denver had the ball 28 plays. Seattle had the ball 8 plays. Even though Craig had a good first half, 2 touchdown passes, 5 for 9, and Warner in 9 carries rushed for 84 yards. Great production there. It was Denver that owned the football, and thus they rallied from 17-7 down.
The two offensive teams really controlled the first half of this game. And I believe, Dick, that we may see one of these defensive teams begin to assert themselves in the second half. If they can do that, they can take control of this football game.
Dave Craig, John L. Williams at fullback, and Kurt Warner, the tailback. It's Warner outside. And a flag down as Warner out of bounds at the 24.
In the area we would expect a holding call. And of course, that's going to put Seattle's backs to the wall here.
It is holding against the Hawks. That'll take it back to the 10-yard line. That's not where you want to start the second half. We understand that Gerald Wilhite, you saw the second
holding number 32 on the offense, still first down.
The play in which he fumbled, then ruled no fumble on that play, injured a knee. He will not return to today's game, but Fred Gilbert, the starting left end who injured an ankle, is playing in there now, in fact. And we'll take that back. Walt Boyer, 65, is at that left end position, but the word is that Gilbert can play. From his own goal line. Underneath he goes to the tight end Mike Tice, his first catch, and Tice out to the 21, an 11-yard gain.
In the battle in the trenches, both offensive lines really have had the edge here today. Not a single sack and very few pressures on the quarterbacks.
This game is the property of the National Football League. Seattle Seahawks and Denver Broncos, all rights reserved. This telecast is presented by authority of the National Football League, intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Denver Broncos and the NFL is prohibited. Second and 9. Largent in motion. Had 2 catches first half. Craig going long for Turner. And incomplete. A flag down. Face mask. Harden got a piece of the face mask.
That's an unbelievable play. Harden didn't really know that that ball was nowhere near being caught.
Actually, ball had already bounced off the back of the receiver, and Harden just reaching in accidentally, and it was not intentional. Got a piece of the mask.
The pass is incomplete. We've got a personal foul for a face mask, which will be 15 yards from the previous spot. First down.
Wow, that's a tough 15-yarder. I thought they might give him just 5.
Well, anytime you hang on that mask and jerk that mask down, these officials are instructed because of the danger in that kind of movement. And you see a lot of the NFL rules aimed at protecting the player, and that's one of them. You jerk on that mask, you might injure a player's neck.
15 yards out to the 36-yard line. Dan Reeves, the play was right in front of the head coach of the Broncos.
I think Reeves may be arguing that Turner was actually interfering with and maybe face guarding the defensive back.
Well, Seattle comes out with a first down.
Here's the end of the play. Now Turner has lost the ball. Watch him. Well, he doesn't wave his arms. You can't call it. And there's the mask. You saw the head jerk down. It's a good call by the officials.
Just an unusual play.
We've had a lot of them.
Warner. Boyer and Haynes, but it was 36. Mark Haynes, the cornerback, into the backfield to make the play, and Boyer finished him off. All the scores on this NFL first Sunday. New England a winner. Upsets Pittsburgh over the 49ers at home. Jets squeak at Buffalo. Washington a winner. New Orleans an upset of Cleveland. And St. Louis, That would have to be regarded as a mild upset, beating the Cowboys. Kansas City beat San Diego. They'll play Seattle next. The Rams stunned by Houston in the Dome. Cincinnati, a 2-point win at Indianapolis. Tampa Bay, big Minnesota winner at Detroit, and the Raiders on a Marcus Allen 1-yard run, 7-0 at Green Bay. Incomplete, intercepted. Dennis Smith. 35, 33, the Broncos, another turnover.
Of the day that has bounced. The first one bounced off a lineman and was intercepted by Easley. This one goes through Largent's arms, and it's Dennis Smith, broken hand and all, putting that one away. You see the big cast on the left hand. Didn't bother him as he tucks it into his right arm and runs down. Finally tackled by Ron Mattis.
15 yards on the return. You won't see Largent miss many of those. That one will be an interception logged against Craig, but actually Largent normally would catch that ball. From the 33. Elway's first throw. The second half to Vance Johnson to the 20. Fred Young with a tackle. 13 more yards for the Broncos.
Young with 5 tackles and 2 assists in the first half. The leading tackler in this game. Back again, but you want to stop those folks before they get those first downs.
Turnovers even. These two teams feast on that statistic during the course of the year, or have for the last several seasons. First down, Winder to the 15-yard line, close to 5 more. 2nd and 5 for Denver. Bruce Schultz, 58, the Stork from Texas, makes the tackle.
The Broncos bring big Orson Mobley in motion. They use him like another guard. He's listed as a tight end. He is a monster. They just like putting an extra tackle into that line.
They list him at 256 pounds.
Wrong. Add about 20 to that, Dick.
That's Mobley in motion, 89. Winder. First down to the 8. Sammy Winder, who has been Denver's top rusher for the last 5 years, each of the last 5.
There's Orson Mobley, 89. Watch him now. He'll duck up into that line. He just becomes an extra lead blocker, just pushing himself up through there. Clarence Kay getting a good block on the other side, number 88. There's Winder. They opened a nice hole for him up inside, and he just refused to go to the ground.
From the 8-yard line, first and goal, Denver. Winder again to the 5. Eugene Robinson has made a lot of defensive plays today. He's in his 3rd year from Colgate, a free agent picked by Seattle a couple of years ago. Very bright, and they saw right away that Robinson had such mental ability.
He's the quarterback of that defense. Calls the defensive signals for him, calls the adjustments for him, and in a very complicated system like Tom Catlin puts on the field, you need a very bright and quick individual to do that.
Went to Colgate on an academic, not an athletic scholarship. 2nd and goal from the 5. Elway, misdirection, wide open Mobley. Huge target. He had 1 touchdown catch all of last year. Has one on opening day in 87. Carlos trying for point. And to the delight of Denver and dismay of Seattle, 20 unanswered points by the Broncos. To keep his receiving corps happy. 8 different Bronco players have caught a pass. Orson Mobley, the latest, and he has a 5-yard touchdown and a 27-17 lead. So early in the 2nd period, Seattle had a 17-7 advantage, and since then it's been all Denver. Interceptions and fumbles leading to their comeback, and now they're up by 10. 10 minutes, 21 seconds left. Third quarter. Edmonds has Carlos strength a leg again. 27-17, Denver.
Today's game is brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By your Subaru dealers. And by McDonald's. It's a good time for the great taste.
The selling of this play is done by the backs, who both start this way, by Elway, who rolls outside, and then by Mobley, who faked the block inside and walks outside all by himself for that touchdown.
Dave Craig comes back throwing for Seattle. Block, and it goes to number 71. Brian Millard, the right guard. After the ball was batted in the air, Millard, a giant from Texas, had it fall right in his lap.
The ball is live when it's batted by the defense. Anyone can catch it. Had it been caught before it was touched by the defense, would have been an illegal pass.
Well, Dave Craig hasn't used all of his receivers, but that was not one of the intended targets.
Not what he wanted. We mentioned the lack of pressure, and of course that was pressure. Big hands in front of Dave Craig. Seattle, 15 yards, 2nd and 15, needs to get something going here.
Craig on top to Largent. Oh, what a play to the 43-yard line. The ball well in the air before Largent made another cut and looked, and it was right there in the basket.
That was Castile. Castile has only been here for 10 days, but watch Largent forcing the bad move. Gives Castile that move to the inside, and when Castile starts to react, he's gone. He said, I try and think like a defensive back. I try and give them those bad moves so that they think I'm going to do something and I go somewhere else.
Boy, magical.
Illegal use of the hands, number 36 on the defense. That penalty is declined. First down.
27-yard pass to Largent goes.
And the other thing that Largent will do is to look those defenders right in the eye. Tries to get eye contact with them. And I said, why do you do that? He said, if they're looking into my eyes, they can't see what my feet are doing.
And those are magical feet. They're going to zero in on him in the fourth quarter. We have a little better end zone camera to just see his many moves. First down, 42. Trailing by 10 Seattle. Early third quarter. Play action Craig. Going for 6 to Turner. And it hits him in the back of the arm. Well covered by Mark Haynes. 10-point Denver lead. Let's go to NFL Live in New York.
Okay, Dick, this is the only other game in progress in the league. Third quarter at Green Bay. Randy Wright's pass intercepted by Raiders safety Van McElroy brings it back 35 for a touchdown. Last time the Packers beat the Raiders, Super Bowl II. Raiders 14, Green Bay zip.
All right, thank you, Bob. And here, the high-scoring pattern of this game continues. Only 6 minutes consumed in the third quarter. And Seattle now trying to get back at Denver's lead. Shotgun, 2nd and 10. Draw to Warner. Not much there to the 45. Gain of 3 for Kurt Warner. Townsend and Robbins with the tackle. Andre Townsend. He played on the outside last year. He's one of those many players that Merlin Olsen talked about in Denver that have changed position. Still playing, but not in the same spot. Townsend moving in on the nose.
Nose tackle, a position that takes some time to get comfortable with. You got people coming from all directions. Townsend likes to read and flow. That should be playing into the hands of this offense a little bit because they can bump you off the line and get an angle on you.
4 wide receivers for Seattle. 3rd and 7. Down the middle, open is Ray Butler, and a first down at the 35. Butler's first catch today, 20 yards. Now, just to show you Dave Craig's problems, and when he's had some bad games, unfortunately, the last 2 years, 2 of those games have been here in Denver. When Seattle plays Denver at home, look at the top line. 53%, lots of yards, 3 TDs, 1 intercept. But here at Denver, 15 completed passes and 48 attempts in the past 2 games. Today, he's been sharp, and the 1 interception really should not have been one. It went right through the arms of Largent. The throw was fine. Randall Morris. 7 worn shirts on him. 3-yard gain.
Dick, one of the players we haven't talked a great deal about, but we should in this Seattle offensive line, Blair Bush. One of the players they missed so sorely during last season, out with a severe knee injury, has come back to lead that offensive line again this year, bulked up to 270 pounds, trying to get better to handle those nose tackles. Doing a fine job in there today.
Chuck Knox talking about it yesterday. A banker in the offseason a couple of years ago, and having to work banker's hours, he realized with the pay that he wanted to be a continuing star in this game.
Shifted his interest to the weight room.
That's right. In a hurry. Craig looks off the defense and throws underneath to Paul Scansey. Former University of Washington star has another first down at the 22, and with that we report bad news for Seattle fans. Kurt Warner, injured, apparently may not play anymore today. We'll get more specifics on Warner's injury. Wilhite definitely, as we told you earlier, will not play anymore today. Injured knee on that fumble, no fumble.
Gathering of the defense on the far side around Coach Tom Catlin. They're concerned about putting the stopper on Elway and that Denver offense, but right now it's Craig who has his offense moving.
They give it to John L. Williams, the fullback, inside to the 17. Rulon Jones and Walt Boyer with a tackle. 5 minutes and 40 seconds remaining in the 3rd period. Isn't that an amazing graphic? John L. Williams, offense and defense, the only NFL rookie to start every game last year. So the #1 pick out of Florida, not only paying dividends with his blocking and his running, but the fact that he's durable.
It's possible we'll see Williams and Burst, 2 big backs, together in short yardage later in the year.
2nd and a long 5 underneath, wide open Butler. Fumble! And Denver has it again. Dennis Smith. And for Seattle, it's been a terrible run of mistakes. Fumbles and interceptions, moving the ball well. But 3 times in the last 2 quarters, they've coughed it up. And Denver stops a drive that seemed destined towards some points.
This looks like a great play for Seattle. Butler wide open. Gets the first down yardage, but it's Dennis Smith reaching in and stripping that football away with his one good hand.
And then going back and recovering it. And recovered the ball.
As an interception earlier in the day, it's been a big day for Dennis Smith, and they didn't know whether he was going to play today.
Denver starts inside the 10. And there's a good lick put on Gene Lang by Fred Young and Jacob Green. Well, Young, very quietly a star in his own rights out of New Mexico. With all the talk about Boz, the way he's hit today, Merlin, I think he wants everyone to know that he still might be a dominant backer himself.
He has always been a great hitter. And on the inside, you've got to pay attention to where he is because he will unload on you. That's how he earned his way into the Pro Bowl, with a lot of hits on special teams his first 2 years. And I think he's one of the most instinctive linebackers in football.
2nd and 8. Elway into the flat to Mobley, the giant tight end for 2. Bruce Schultz. Rodeo tackle down at the 12. Let's check the baseball results in the big pennant races. The Yankees, dim hopes, but they slowed down the Jays 8-5. Detroit beats Milwaukee. Minnesota, the Twins galloping, win again. The Mets are in a rain delay 2-1, and a must win for them against St. Louis. Montreal loses Cardinals and Mets, whoever wins that one, a chance to make some hay. And San Francisco building its lead in the West, 6-1 over Cincinnati. 3rd and 6. Over the middle to Mobley. First down at the 30. Talk about a big target. Orson Mobley, the biggest of tight ends in the NFL, gets 17 more.
Dick, that preponderance of plays by this Denver offense in the second quarter may have tired this defense somewhat. They're still not getting any pressure on Elway, and if you give him time to throw the football, he's going to find that open receiver.
There's been a lot of dogging on either side, though, hasn't
I think that's because of the new people on defense. They're kind of playing it close to the vest defensively.
Lang was very quick feet and an explosive starter, shoots across the 35 for a gain of 6 more. Let's check on other action. Back to New York and NFL Live.
Okay, Dick, here's a highlight from earlier in the day. Warren Moon zipping this pass to Ernest Givens, and the catch and run is good for 59 yards in the fourth quarter at the Astrodome against the Rams. It proved to be the game-winning play. Houston scored 17 in the last period to come back and win.
One of the big stories today. Thank you, Bob. Back here in Denver, it's Sammy Winder to the 41 and a Bronco first down, and ball control continues. Well, I guess the two big surprises of this day, Tampa Bay's overwhelming win against Atlanta and the upset in the Astrodome, the Oilers knocking off one of the preseason favorites to go deep into the playoffs, the Los Angeles Rams.
Certainly two surprises. One surprise for us as we get a report now that Warner may be back into the game. And that's good news for all those Seattle fans who are really concerned, as they should be, for their great running start.
That's a quick rehab. Here's the flea flicker. Elway, and wide open is Johnson. Touchdown, Denver. Loves that play. Elway to Sewell. Steve Sewell lateraling back to Elway. And Vance Johnson 15 yards deep behind the Seattle secondary. Carlos adds the extra point. And the man they say is perhaps the best in the game at quarterback, Elway. 4 touchdown passes. Got 416 yards in offense, and you're still in the third period. And you get a 4th touchdown throw from your star Elway. 92 yards in 6 plays, so a fumble going the other way. Seattle appeared to be about to score to tighten the game, and Denver hits them with a big one. Carlos to Edmonds. He's going to take it out from 5 yards deep. And Edmonds, what a play down the sidelines to the 38-yard line. So 43-yard return by Bobby Joe Edmonds. 1:20 left in the third quarter.
Every trick play known to man. This is their favorite today. A little toss back there, the flea flicker. They used it last year against the Seahawks here. Got a touchdown off it. They do it again. Johnson wide open. Chuck Knox on the sideline biting hard on his fingers. Could not believe that they did not read it better than they did defensively.
Seattle with a good return from Bobby Joe Edmonds. The fullback struggles to the 43-yard line. 5 yards on the play. John Elway, 4 touchdown passes. 7 times last year over 300 yards. Today 311. 4 scores, and the interception was a deflection. Well, the city, of course, celebrated a Super Bowl appearance last year, and they're thinking about that already in Game 1 this year, while Seattle, favored by many to be the team for the AFC, deflected incomplete. And there, the difference in size at quarterback. Craig, 4 or 5 inches shorter, doesn't have some of the advantages that the larger Elway does.
One of the concerns of Steve Moore, offensive coordinator for Seattle, is that they maintain that secure pocket, that they give him a little insulation. And it's exactly for that reason, Dick. He doesn't see as well over those on-rushing defensive linemen.
3rd down, 5. 38 seconds left in the 3rd quarter. After leading 17-7, Seattle has seen Denver score 27 straight points. Good job by Craig. He gets it to Butler, and a first down, a flag down. Mecklenburg did not have him within control. He had a piece of him, and Craig able to kick free. Now let's check the penalties.
Well, the rule reads grasp and control. We had the first part, not the second. Craig makes the most of it.
Boys, if Seattle doesn't have enough problems, they battle to a first down, and the penalty will bring it back. Boy, they've been their own worst enemy the last 2 periods.
Watch Dave Craig pull out of the tackle here. Now, if Mecklenburg can get control of him here, he has a hold of the leg, but doesn't have control of him.
Still 3rd down.
Darrell Turner lined up offside.
Well, it only takes one mistake offensively to shut down the play, and sometimes it's something as silly as lining up with your head over the ball.
3rd and 10, Seattle. Craig has had a decent day. One of those interceptions, not his fault.
It certainly has to be a concern to the Seattle Seahawks. It was a loss here last year that triggered that losing streak that ended up seeing Craig pinch.
4 losses in a row and knocked Seattle out of the playoffs. The end of the 3rd quarter. We'll be right back after these words from your local station. We open the 4th quarter. Denver Broncos in command, 34-17, and a big 3rd and 10 for Dave Craig after they picked up the first down, called back on the offside penalty. Down the middle, and he misses Kurt Warner. It was Warner on a similar play, shorter version, that scored a touchdown. Second score for Seattle back in the opening period, when the Hawks build up a 17-7 lead through 3 periods. Time of possession surprises me, Merlin. Only 4 minutes more for Denver. It seems as if they've had the ball twice as much.
They've had a lot more plays. Well, certainly much of the possession by the Seahawks was in the first quarter of this game. The next 2 quarters have seen a great deal more in possession by the Broncos.
Only the second punt of the entire game. Very high. Natil back at his 15. Good. And a flag down as Natil dropped at the 14-yard line. 47-yard punt by Rodriguez. Melvin Jenkins with the tackle.
No foul on the play. No foul on the play.
No, there is no foul, and Denver will take over at the 14-yard line as they pick up the flag in Denver. 14:44 left. He's certainly engaged here, and suddenly it's all Denver. And we hope that this won't be just a two-game season. Is this a strike situation this year, in your eyes, any different than the one 5 years ago?
I really believe it is, Dick. I think 5 years ago, under Ed Garvey, the players were much responsible for refusing to talk as the owners. The owners put a real gunslinger at the table, and they've left him there. I think the players have been willing to talk, and nothing has happened. We need to see some movement, or I'm afraid we are going to see a strike.
Winder to the 17-yard line as We checked the other late game today, and the Raiders now have built a 17-0 lead. Here are some of the big stories of this first week of the NFL season. Steve DeBerg of the Bucks, 5 TD tosses to beat the Falcons. Redskins, injury, Schrader, Grimm, Atkinson, and Rodgers, and Paul Palmer and Christian Okoye of Kansas City. The 1-2 rookie tandem leading them to a win against the Chargers. 2nd and 7 for Elway. Almost intercepted. Went through the grasp of Robinson on the deflection. Intended for Steve Watson.
One of the things that Dan Reeves is very pleased about is the addition of John Ayers to this offensive line. Ayers was considered expendable by the San Francisco 49ers, who turned him loose. He's come here, quickly earned himself a starting position. One of the guys that's happiest to see him here, Billy Bryant. Billy says, now I'm not the oldest player on this team. And of course, the two of them playing shoulder to shoulder and hip to hip in that offensive line.
Bryant 32 and Ayers 2 years older. Lang. And they caught Denver looking pass, and it's a first down for Lang at the 28. Robinson made the tackle. 10 yards on the play. Another 4 downs for the Broncos.
A chance to watch Billy Bryant in action here as he blocks back. Watch Dave Studdard pulling up through, and here is John Ayers on the far side blocking man-to-man. Of course, you'll see the shot out of the shotgun as they pull up in behind and get some good yardage, surprising that Seattle defense that has really not had a very good day.
Winder, the only running back behind Elway on first down. Wide open Mobley. The tight end is to the Seattle 47 before Taylor makes the tackle. 25 more yards for Orson Mobley from Salem College.
In past years, you could almost ignore Denver's tight ends in a passing situation. You can't do that anymore. Rich Kay, Orson Mobley both catching passes here today. Mobley earlier for a touchdown, and of course right there for a very big game.
Half 100 for Mobley. And Denver's offense continues to roll with 12:43 left. Fourth quarter. Winder inside the 45, and Mobley, the tight end, in motion leading into the hole. Schultz and company on the tackle. Well, the emotional loss of a team that drives the length of the field only to fumble or lose the ball inside the 10 and then see the other team go down and score. You just can't put a figure on that, but that's been part of the Denver story today, that they've really taken that away from the Seahawks.
Turnover is horribly deflating to both the defense and the offense.
No hold. Sammy Winder, Jeff Bryant, number 77, and Jacob Green, the two ends for Seattle, with a tackle at the 45, where it'll be 3rd down and 7. Remember earlier in the game we had a graphic where the Seahawks had 100 yards rushing and Denver 33. And now the Broncos have a 5-yard lead in that department. And of course, trailing, Seattle won't be using much of its ground game. They're playing catch-up if and when they do get the ball. Another mistake by Seattle. Flags down. They were offside. Elway with a free play. Look at that. They can't bring him down. Finally, Paul Moyer, 21, makes the tackle. What would have been a very big defensive play for Seattle, but someone in the center of that defense seemed to jump offside. Rookie Wes Dove, number 64. Yep.
Chuck Knox teams do not usually beat themselves. That's a trademark of the teams he's put together at Los Angeles and Buffalo and Seattle.
Still 3rd down.
There's the rookie, number 64, Dove, just trying a little too hard. They're starting to use him in pass rushing situations. They feel he's going to help them. They desperately need depth in that defensive line. Late in the year, they've had real trouble. They've had to play those 3 big horses so often and so many plays that they just wear down.
Hasn't been a sack in the game, that would have been the first. Instead, it's 3rd and 2 for Elway. Vance Johnson. That catch would have put him over the 100-yard mark, and Elway at the other end just hopping up and down saying, ooh, I had it right where I wanted, and Johnson with all of his speed out in the open where he could have really turned it upfield.
Denver's high-tech offense, very quick pass. Elway knows that one should have been caught. Vance Johnson pounding his helmet all the way to the sideline.
It's the first time that Seattle defense has forced Denver into a punting situation. Mike Moran in to kick, another left-footed kicker. Seattle very good in blocking these, but not this time. Angle toward the Conklin corner, and a pretty good kick.
Oh, he caught it beautifully.
3-yard line. Oh, is the mood positive in Denver?
Today's game is brought to you by Mazda, bringing performance and value together. That's the Mazda way. By Tandy Computers, because there is no better value, only at Radio Shack. And by the U.S. Army, a place to be all you can be.
Well, 275 no-shows today. 75,999 used their tickets, and happy they did. 27-5 in their last 32 home games, the Broncos. And Mike Moran's 37-yard punt places Seattle at its 3. From his own end zone, Mike Tice, the tight end, to the 16-yard line and a first down. Tony Lilly with a tackle, 13 yards on the play.
The Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks both enjoy a bigger than normal home field advantage, in part because of this very loud crowd. And Seattle, I think, probably the loudest stadium in the NFL. But this Denver crowd, they're almost like a college crowd. You see all the orange in this stand. These people are about as fanatic as any fans you can find anywhere in the country.
Wobbly pass intercepted by Mecklenburg at the 26. It appeared to be deflected at the line of scrimmage.
It's in situations like this that you really sense that crowd, too. They are intimidating as they just pump up their team when they're making good plays. Craig, you kind of sense the air going out of him. At the same time, I think the Denver defense finally starting to feed off the energy of this crowd. Watch Mecklenburg, number 77, middle of your screen. That ball tapped right there.
Walt
Boyer, 65, and right into the hands of Mecklenburg, the second deflected interception of the day.
There's the difference in height. Boyer able to reach that hand up, and Craig couldn't get it through him. From the 27, Winder. Knocked out of bounds by Robinson and Jenkins.
And Bosworth. No, Greg Gaines at the bottom.
Last season, least times the ball turned over.
That was Bosworth there.
Today, Seattle a -2, and that's a statistic that Dan Reeves, all coaches do. I mean, the difference in sack differential, and there have been no sacks today, so nothing to report there, and turnover differential is one that Reeves keeps meticulously. He really feels that's the key to ultimately winning or losing the big games, and he's a +2 today, and he leads on the scoreboard 34-17. 2nd and 4. Same play. And it was Greg Gaines that came up and made the tackle. Yes, Gaines 56.
Dick, just to amplify on those home field advantage statistics, last year both of these teams were 7-1 at home. And in a very tough game here, see the Hawks allowed the fewest points in the AFC on the average last year, but that stat breaks down into almost 3 seasons for them. They had a great beginning, a great finish, and a very lumpy middle of the season.
Well, you allow 34 points, you're not going to beat too many teams. Elway looking for more on third down. The draw. Inside the 20. Won't be quite enough. He picked up about 6. It'll be 4th and a yard and a half. Out comes the field goal unit.
I'm not so sure I agree with that kind of call. That puts Elway at risk. And with that kind of lead on the board, I'm not so sure that that's a good risk to take.
Yeah, I would think, Merlin, here's a case where Seattle really come after this kick. They have nothing really to lose, and maybe a big play could give them a chance at a turnaround.
They can get their hands on it, maybe bounce it around. I've seen touchdowns come out of blocked field goals.
35 yards the attempt.
Not this time.
Carlos is 3 for 3 today. 3 more for the Broncos. They lead by 20. News there is that they're talking.
That needs to be a lot of talking. I don't know how you can settle something like free agency or even a modified free agency without time to spend at the table.
Rich Carlos, perfect 3 for 3 in field goals, will kick it off, and in this direction, no one has really had a chance to return.
Carlos has been kicking deeper this year by far than ever before.
This one is short. Brandon Moore at the 6. Rick Dennison, 55, one of those downfield. With Bruce Klosterman, a rookie linebacker. Now you see on the scoreboard how Denver, once down 17-7, has taken control. And suddenly Seattle, although they have moved the ball well, just the mistake, the interception, the fumble.
Well, you're never as good as or as bad as a score like that, and I'm sure Seattle will find a lot of things to be unhappy about in this game, but they will find a lot of things to take courage at looking at. They've done some very good things in this game.
8 minutes plus remaining. Craig to Largent, and he's out of bounds at the 37-yard line with his 4th catch of the day.
I don't think either team is going to be terribly pleased with their defensive performance. I mentioned earlier that both Tom Catlin and Joe Collier have made changes in their defenses. They're playing a little close to the vest today. There's Collier on the Denver sideline. But neither defense has really been dominant, and these two teams have been typified in many of their games and through the years by their defensive character and the strength of those defenses.
Lineup for next week, we'll give you another look at it. We're about to run this play. We'll be up in Seattle as Kansas City, a winner today, takes on the Seahawks. 17 yards on that last play. Craig, and through the fingertips of Darrell Turner.
Darrell Turner makes the big catch very often for you. He certainly has a high percentage of touchdowns, but he will also drop the easy ones.
Steelers and Browns renew that great rivalry. The Dolphins, Indianapolis, both losers today. Houston with the upset. Today we'll go to Buffalo. Denver plays in Green Bay. And the one late game next week will be Kansas City at Seattle. It all starts at 12:30 Eastern Time with NFL Live.
I'm anxious to see Okoye.
Yes.
For that size and speed, he's going to be something.
2nd and 10. Craig down the middle. Intercepted by Harden. 40, 50. Out of bounds at the 36-yard line. Mike Harden. Mecklenburg threw a big block for him.
Fans of these Denver Broncos are asking, how can you say we don't dominate defensively when we intercept the football like that? Hard to argue with.
An affinity for the interception and the touchdown. Didn't quite take that one back, but over 30 yards on the return. The end of last year, the last game up in Seattle, was 41-16 Seahawks. Denver came into this game with that fresh in their memory bank.
They certainly did. Dan Reeves showed them that film. They were embarrassed by it. They've responded very well today. And I think the most important performance by John Elway. He took them Outstanding out here today.
Looking for more. Underneath he goes to Clarence Kay, tackled immediately by Tony Woods. Woods, 57, the #1 draft pick out of Pittsburgh, a 4-year starter and an All-American with the Panthers. Let's check on Green Bay and the Raiders. And the Raiders have built a 20-0 lead, apparently Los Angeles. And that defense, you know, you talk about the demise of the Raiders, a lot of the prophets, but you can't overlook the fact they still play big defense and one of the better teams in the NFL in that regard. The Irwindale Raiders.
That's closer to my house.
Yeah, that's you used to play in those gravel pits.
Hey, I get out of those pits without any problem.
Elway on 2nd and 7. Draw to Lang, or Wilder rather, and he's to the 26-yard line. Right through second base. Joe Nash made the tackle. It'll be shy of the first down, it would appear, from this angle by about a half yard.
One of the things that Denver has done today is to run the ball effectively. There were, 3 games last year when Elway was the leading rusher on this team. And you can't put that kind of pressure on Elway, and I'm sure that that's one of the reasons that Reeves has tried to feature that running attack, and they've done very well with it today.
Elway, who signed a big new extension of his contract this week. 3rd and short. And a first down for Lang to the 20. You want your son to be a dentist, a doctor, or a quarterback?
I think you know the answer to that question. $2 million of that signing bonus are deferred to 1994 and 1995, but those are still mighty healthy figures. And Pat Bowlen, the owner here in Denver, said, look, I got the best quarterback in football. I want him to be paid, I want him to be happy, and I want him to finish his career here.
And Elway said, I'm happy.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
First down at the 20. Through the middle lane, and the fans are chanting, I believe, Bosworth.
They're chanting for the Boz, yeah.
Well, speaking of the Boz, since we're into economics here in the 4th quarter, he has a 10-year deal worth $11 million. Well,
he starts out kind of lumpy next to Elway, but he finishes pretty good.
Well, that's good enough. And you know, that's another word that goes into my dictionary of good words: signing bonus. That's in the good word dictionary, along with retroactive and residual. Listen, Bosworth. Aimed at number 55, Bosworth, who's had a quiet second half.
He says he likes to be taunted. Let's see how he responds.
2nd and 8. Sammy Winder. Joe Nash trying to make the tackle. Appears that he is injured. Now he's going to make it up.
Certainly no shortage of blockers as they put 2 of them on them. Well, that's something to think about. Do you think these guys want to walk out? That's what it would cost Bosworth to miss a game, and Elway to miss a single game.
Can you imagine that? Those 2 contracts alone would be the economy of some small nations of the world. $62,000 for a game, and you're unhappy?
Well, $62,000. I think it took me about 8 years in the NFL to get, so I made that in a whole year.
4:11 left, and Seattle has called time.
You saw the comment by Keith Bishop. Plays guard for Denver Broncos. He said, John, got all that money, huh? He said, I suppose now we're going to find the new Corvette in each of our driveways. And John responded, Elway responded by saying, well, I don't know about that, but he said, I guess I better buy him a nice Christmas present.
There's the comment of Dan Reeves on Bosworth. Well, he'll be a challenge because not of his play, but his verbal interaction with the press. But they certainly love him up in Seattle, and he's created even more interest in a city already deeply in love with their Seahawks. Let's look at all the scores today. The battle, that's always a terrific rivalry, and New England and the rain wins are so important, as they say, to win that first game, because then you've got to win 2 more just to get ahead. And those that have won today celebrate, and those who lose have to dig it out. Jets a winner at Buffalo. Boy, how many times they've played field goal games the last few years. Washington, despite all the injuries, prevails at Philadelphia against Philadelphia. New Orleans They rarely win on opening day, so the Saints have to be happy. Dallas, Gene Stallings, former Cowboy assistant, records a win on opening day. Kansas City with Okoye, the fullback, the giant fullback, and Palmer, the other rookie, contributing, beating San Diego. Huge upset. Houston at home knocks off the Rams. Cincinnati, one of the favorites in the AFC Central, a winner. And here Denver's beating Seattle with 4:11 left, and the Broncos trying to add to a 34-17 lead. Ooh, Lang cracked right at the line of scrimmage. Jacob Green and Wes Dove in on that tackle.
Brian Bosworth right in the middle of that stack.
It's an evening of season premieres tonight on NBC. We hope you'll stay with us. Beginning a special two-part Our House, then find out what makes Alex tick on a one-hour Family Ties. Then from the creator of Miami Vice, it's the two-hour movie premiere, Private Eye. That's tonight. Big lineup on NBC. Carlos, who is 3 for 3, will attempt a 29-yard field goal. Rusty Tillman, the special teams coach. Perhaps they had a block on and nothing developed, and Tillman not too happy at all. It's 37-40 now, 17. Well, Elway with 4 touchdown passes, and Carlos 4 for 4 field goal kicking.
Well, John Elway and his Bronco teammates had a chance to look at a film which rather embarrassed them to prepare for this one. I think when this action transfers to Seahawks country, that this film will be #1 on the agenda with Chuck Knox.
We didn't get through all the scores. Tampa Bay, the caretaker, Vinny Testaverde's caretaker, Steve DeBerg, threw 5 touchdowns.
Well, DeBerg was here when Elway arrived.
That's right.
Had to carry some of the load for John as John was thrust into the game. Couldn't really handle the responsibility early. DeBerg came in, took over for him, let him watch a few games, and of course John finally was able to step in and begin to grow into the masterful quarterback he is today. But DeBerg's story has to be one of the most interesting in all of football.
You saw the Vikings winning. Boy, they can score points. They've got a high-powered offense.
And a chance to push Chicago if Chicago can't straighten out its quarterback.
That'll be a game tomorrow night.
Ooh,
the Giants and the Bears.
What a way to start.
Carlos sends this one toward Colorado Springs. Or is that the wrong direction? I guess that's Boulder. That's toward Boulder.
Somewhere out there.
Hard to believe, Merlin, that even a month from now we might even see snow on the mountains and nearby.
It certainly might. One of the reasons that there was concern here in Denver was the retirement of some very strong players. The first 4 men on that list, starters for many years defensively. Jackson, the emotional, spiritual leader of this team. Reuben Carter, Louis Wright, still, if he were here today, would be the starting cornerback.
That's right.
Steve Foley and Paul Howard, the offensive guard who announced his retirement yesterday. Those are hard people to replace.
Hoping to get a cosmetic touchdown here with 4 minutes to go. It's going to be incomplete. And no flag. Paul Scansey, a look-alike in terms of physique to his star wide receiver teammate Steve Largent. Simon Fletcher, 73. They say Fletcher, who has been moved from a defensive lineman to a linebacker. Chuck Knox yesterday said if you had a 20-yard run, catching men in the middle of a 20-yard run, Fletcher would be the fastest Bronco. I don't believe. Can you have faster than Vance Johnson?
They've actually timed him in that way. They call it a flying 20, and he's beaten Vance Johnson not once but several times in the flying 20. Look out.
You don't want to be hit by that man with a running start. 2nd and 10. You saw the time remaining, a little over 3 minutes.
There it is. It's not a fumble. The whistle there, and Craig is hurt.
Michael Brooks, a highly sought linebacker out of LSU, a 3rd-round pick, but he would have been a #1 except for a terrible knee injury his senior year. They likened him to Cornelius Bennett and Brian Bosworth. Brooks with a sack.
First sack of the day, a stunt with Brooks and Simon Fletcher inside.
Boy, is he strong. He just
explosive.
2 men tried to block him.
Well, this day started very happily couple of touchdowns. Maybe Denver listened to me talking about the fact that their defense wasn't dominating. Turned it on here in the final part of this ball game.
Third down. And a bunch. 26. Whoops. Drake finds the handle. Throws incomplete and right into 3 orange jerseys. Steve Largent well covered. Rick Dennison might have tipped it.
Dick, one of the concerns here, and it relates to that panel on retirements, was for the leadership of this defensive team. I think you're seeing some of that leadership starting to emerge from these players who are stepping into those playing roles. And these fans appreciate it.
But are they having fun?
By golly, they are today.
Well, it's the same way around the NFL, the winning team, and we've seen the same scene under the dome in Seattle. Natil might have a chance to return one, and he is dangerous. Stands inside the 50. Rodriguez sends out a good kick. And Natil, a 13-yard return. 50 yards on the punt. 2:25 left, and Gary Kubiak will replace John Elway at quarterback for Denver. Kubiak, who has done a solid job whenever called upon an Elway injury. He was picked in 1983, same year that Elway was the #1 selection of the Colts. He came around in the 8th round, 196 picks later. His career percentage, 58%. Last year, limited duty, 60%. He's in there just a hand off. Ken Bell, second-year man from Boston College, couple of yards.
I gotta believe it's a good choice. You've got that great lead. Why take a chance of getting Elway hurt? You also need to make sure that Kubiak is sharp. Always a possibility of having a quarterback go down. Well, this certainly doesn't start the Seattle season the way they had it planned. They're picked by many to end up this season in the Super Bowl. They're going to have to play a lot better than they did today if that's going to come true for them.
2-minute timeout. Paying his first residuals, no surprise there. Most Valuable Player Award sponsored by Budweiser. Today's MVP, John Elway, Denver Broncos. Budweiser will make a contribution to the United Way on behalf of all the MVP selected throughout the games in the NFL today. Elway 22 for 32, 338 yards, 4 touchdowns. 1 intercept was on a deflection. Leading 40-17. Broncos just running out the clock. Kubiak handing off to Bell right into the center of the defense to the 33-yard line. One of the things we'll do throughout the course of the year on NBC is a report card, key players on offense. Elway, you can see, he'll get an A or an A+ for his effort today. Winder, 79 yards off the bench for the injured Gerald Wilhite. Big tight end Mobley, a touchdown and 5 catches, 52 yards, and Carlos Perfect. Pretty good students there. We'll check Seattle after this play.
Grading the defense, the grades in the second half of this game, and particularly in the fourth quarter, have suddenly gotten very good. Not so good in the early part of this game.
Well, they've shut out Seattle the last 40 minutes of this game. Kubiak handing off the line to the 30-yard line, shy of the first down. Here's the Seattle card. For those of you who joined late, kind of gives you an idea of how their key players went. Craig started very well, but then under pressure, having to catch up. 3 interceptions, 50% of his passes. Warner, injured, started off brilliantly. He had 80+ yards in his first 8 carries in the first half. Largent, solid again, 4 catches, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Bosworth, 7 tackles. That's unofficial.
Not a bad day for the boss. He's been heard from.
Patrick Boland, the owner of the Broncos, great athlete himself, a triathlete. 4th down and inches. Another first down. Lang to the 25. Now the Broncos can just watch the final seconds tick away as the fans here in Denver celebrate an opening win, 40-17.
One thing we should say, as we watch the Seahawks head for their locker room, that man knows how to put a team back together. I bet we see a different Seattle team next week against Kansas City.
Up in the Kingdom, you see Chuck Knox saying good job to Dan Reeves. They have a lot of respect for one another. The AFC champions of a year ago, the Denver Broncos, start slowly, down 17-7. But John Elway's 4 touchdown passes, and he commiserates with Dave Craig, lead the Broncos to a very impressive win today. We'll be right back. I'd argue 40-17, a Denver win.
Dan Reeves has used that loss to the Giants in the Super Bowl as a springboard for this season. He said, remember how it hurt to lose that game. Today, they started a long march back toward another Super Bowl. Our congratulations to John Elway and his teammates. They earned a big victory today.
Very impressively, the Broncos, after Seattle had built the early 17-7 lead. Larry Cirillo, our producer, Ted Nathanson, our director. Our thanks to Joe Costanza, Messrs. Friedman, Cohn, and Dodge in our booth. And stay tuned, NBC tonight.
Pulling it away from the defenders.